Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notification.
Okay guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to our YouTube channel. In this tutorial we are going to learn how we can create a CRUD application in Django and React.js. Actually, in our previous tutorial we covered how we can create a social network in Django, and we created the Motec app, which was the Django based social network. So in this tutorial we are going to cover the CRUD application in Django and REST and Django framework and React.js. So if you didn't watch my previous tutorial on how you can create a social network by using Django, please find out the video and check it. I promise you it's one of my masterpiece tutorial ever on the YouTube. But this is going to be this is going to be more than a masterpiece, where you're going to cover about three technologies. We are going to use the Django REST API framework, okay, to render the information from the database to the browser. And the next thing, we are going to use the Django web framework, which I hope we have been using it for a long time. And the next thing, which is a new concept to you, is React.js. This is JavaScript front and web framework. And the next thing, we're going to use MySQL database. You can see how this about four technologies being integrated, and I hope it's going to add something in the back of your mind. You'll know how to use React.js. You'll know the best of the Django REST API framework. You'll know how you can use MySQL in the Django framework. So this is how our final product will look like at the end of this masterpiece tutorial. So this is homepage, which shows the four technologies being used in this tutorial, and the next page is just for displaying the list of students added in the database, and the third page is about how we can add a new student. Like here I can say the new student is Motec, not Motec only, but Motec app. Okay, the first name is Motec app. The email is motecapp@gmail.com, right? So motecapp@gmail.com, that's our Motec group email. And the course, I can say telecommunication, telecom engineer. Okay, so once I hit submit, you can see added successful, and the data is displayed without refreshing the page. That is how React.js is gaining reputation. Okay, so here I can click it like this. So you can see we have successful added a student in your database without refreshing the page, right? We have just used the pop-up model and adding the new student to the database. But I can also delete the added user in the database. I can delete this. Okay, so that's it. So this is how our final product will look like at the end of this tutorial. So among four functionality in CRUD, I mean create, read, create is implemented, read is implemented, delete is implemented, but edit is not implemented. Since we are starting with React.js at Motec app, so never mind. And I promise you that the edit functionality will be covered in the next tutorial. So in this tutorial is all about read, create, and delete by using the Django web framework, the Django REST API, React.js, which is a popular JavaScript front-end framework, and MySQL, which is one of the most used database in the world. So that's it. So in the next session, I'll give you the lesson content, like what will be covered in the second session, because this is the first session covering introduction and the demo of the project. So in the next session, we'll cover the lesson content, like what will be what will be followed until the end. So I promise you that you will enjoy this my masterpiece tutorial. This is one of my best tutorial ever on the YouTube, so stuck on my channel. But do not forget to like, put comment, share and subscribe. I really I get more encouraged when I see my videos are gaining more likes, I'm gaining a lot of subscriber and so on, a lot of comments. So that's fuel my mind and make me energetic to produce a masterpiece tutorial. So keep on touch with my channel and stick it. We are going to create a masterpiece. Okay, before we call on, let me give you some requirement you need to carry out this project. Actually, I've divided the requirement into 3 parts. Number 1 is the software requirement. Okay, I mean these are the application you need to you need to install them in your computer. First of all, you need Visual Studio Code installed in your computer. You need the Sublime Text Editor, which is one of the popular coding editor, and you need the Postman for testing API. What are the packages you need to install in your computer? First, you need Python installed in your computer. You need Django, Node.js, React.js, and the Django REST API framework. What are the skills necessary you need for you to take this project? You need at least to be you need at least to have a knowledge in Python. You can be a beginner in Django. You can have some basics in JavaScript. You can have some basics in React.js and the Django REST API framework. So those are the requirements you need. There are applications you need to install in your computer. There are some packages you need to install, and there are some skills which you need to have for you to be eligible to do this project. But what are the parts or the subsection to be covered in this tutorial? First of all, our tutorial is divided in 2 phases. Okay, so the first number 1 is all about back-end development, where we'll have about 2 parts. Part number 1 is project setup, which will include installing of Django, installing of the Django REST API framework, installing of cons, headers, and some settings. But also we will install, or you need to have installed the example, because the backend database is MySQL and the web server is Apache. So if you are using Windows to do this project, make sure XAMPP is already installed in your computer, and MySQL and Apache are running properly and okay. But for Linux user, make sure you have installed for Linux use. I hope Apache is there installed by default, but you should check if the MySQL is also installed and try to learn or to check their status to see if they are running properly and okay. So that is part number 1. It is all about the project setup and some settings in settings.py, which is the Django configuration file. So in the part number 2 of phase number 1 of back-end development, we'll create views, we'll create URLs for rendering data on the browser. So we'll create a serializer for serializing the data from the backend. We'll create a view for handling the data, and we'll create a URL which create the path for rendering data. So that is all about the back-end development. In the front-end development, we'll have 4 main parts. Part number 1 will create the home page. As you can see, student management web application. We'll create a REST student, which is a React.js page for fetching information from the API and displaying them on the browser. But the part number 3 is for adding the user from the front end to the back end the root API to the MySQL database. The part number 4 is delete functionality, which will enable us to delete students in a database. So that is all about our project. Our project is mainly categorized into front end and the back end. We'll start with back end, then we'll move to the front end. So keep in touch. In the next session, which is session number 2, because the first session is introduction to the project, right? So the session number 2 will start the creating of project, specifically the Django project for backend, the installation of the Django REST API framework, making the proper configuration in database in settings.py, and so on. So that's it. Get prepared for the next session, which is project setup. So this is part number 2 after having the part number 1 in the introduction. In the part number 2 of this session, you will discover the structure of the Django project. What are the important setup you need to make? You will discover what are the important things to be included in install the app of setting.py. But also you will discover how to connect and how to create MySQL database for the project, right? I hope everything is okay. So the first thing, let me show you the project so as you can capture the project structure. Okay, so let me navigate to the desktop, and you can see this React Django. This is our project, right? And you can create the Django project by command Django -admin start project, then the name of project, which is React Django. Okay, so after running this command on your Visual Studio Code shell, or on your CMD, whatever, or on your PyCharm shell, you will see the project named React Django. Right? So after creating a project, the next thing to do is to create an app which is called the backend. So you learn the command Django admin startup backend, right? So after running successful a command, you'll be able to see this folder named backend, right? So this is our backend application. So after that, make sure you have installed the REST framework, the Django REST API framework, and you have included this folder in the root folder of your project. But never mind, if you have not if you have failed to get the REST framework folder, don't worry, because I'll upload my source code on the GitHub, which is my project repository. Okay, so make sure you have REST framework folder and you have backend folder. Forget about the front end folder. This will be covered in the next phase, which is the front end development. So far, so nice. So after creating an app, installing the Django REST API framework, open up React Django, then open up settings.py. I'm going to show you the important configuration you need to do. Okay, so make sure these lines are included. Okay, then the next thing, make sure you include the REST API framework, and also you include the backend application. But also then the other thing you need to install is course header. So you need to install this, and it is listed in requirements.txt. So you can install all packages of the project for the backend by running pip install ara pip install -ara requirements.txt to install all packages needed for the project, right, for the backend. Then the next thing to do is we are going to set up the backend database. As I told you that I'm going to use MySQL as a database, and I told you if you are a Windows user, make sure you have installed the example, and make sure Apache is running, which is our web server, and the MySQL is running. Okay, so before setting the database name, make sure you have already created a database named React Django _db. I can show you my database created. As you can see here, there is a database called React Django _db. So this is a database setup which is very important. Okay, so after setting up the database, the next thing to do is to create a table. Okay, so we are going to create a table named students, which will be specifically for storing the information of students, like the first name, second name, email, and the course a student studies. Okay, so in backend folder, which is our application, open up a file named models.py. Then make sure your model has the following fields, which are the columns: student ID, first name, last name, email, and course. So this is a table in the database, and these are the columns of the table in the database. So I hope we are done with models.py. Okay, so after creating a model, the next thing we need to do is make sure we added the model in admin.py. So here we need to import model students. So from .models import students, then register your model so as you can be able to make some operation in admin panel, like adding new student, editing, and deleting. After that, you need to create a super user for your project so as super user can be able to manage the information of model student. So to create a super user, the command is python manage.py create super user. Then you will be prompted to insert the name of super user, the email, and the password. I have already created a super user who is Motec, and the password is Motec. So once you will clone this repository from my GitHub account, you will be able to log in as super user by navigating to admin.py, then use username Motec and the password Motec. Okay, so that's it. The next thing we need to do in backend, so create a file named Serializer, and I will tell you what you need to do in Serializer. Create a file named urls.py, then come in React Django, open urls.py, make sure you include backend.urls, include this line. Okay, I hope that is okay. So after making some important configuration like database setup, adding the installed application in the installed app section of setting.py, creating a super user, registering the model in admin.py, the next thing we need to do is run a migration, run a server, try out to log in admin panel and make some few operations like inserting new students. Okay, so what we need to do now is you need to run a migration, and I hope you know the command. The command is python manage.py make migrations. After successful execution of a command, run another command which is the Django, which is python manage.py migrate. Then after run up your Django server. Okay, so here I'm using Visual Studio Code as my coding editor. So far so nice. So I can clear the terminal here. Okay, let me list it. So I can run the server python manage.py run server to run the Django server. Okay, this is still Motec Up, and we are learning how to create a CRUD application by using the Django web framework, the Django REST API framework, React.js, and the MySQL database. Okay, so after the server running successful, the next thing we need to do is to navigate to the admin so as we can log in and see our registered model. So before I log in, let me refresh. Okay, refresh it. Okay, so admin slash. So as I told you that I created a super user who is Motec and the password is Motec. So never mind about being authenticated to the admin panel. The username is Motec and the password is Motec. Hope that's clear. And you can see our model student is registered in admin panel. So click on, you can see here there are two students, right? So these are the students. Okay, so here I can add a student, like I can add another student, like I can say this is Tiago. This is the name I appreciate. Then the last name Alcantara. Okay, then the email is tiago12@gmail.com. Then course is software engineering, so I just write the abbreviation of the course, which is SE. Then after I save, right? Now you can see we have successfully created a student. We can do a lot of operation, like we can select here and delete a student. Okay, so I can choose delete, then click go. Do you want to delete? Yes, I'm sure. Don't take me back. I can add another student, like I can say the student is JJ. The last name is JJ. The email is jjj@gmail.com. And the course is telecommunication engineering. I click save to make sure I add the data on model. Okay, so that's it. So we are done with this is just the intro page. In short, we are done with project setup. We are now full aware of the project structure. Okay, we are now full aware of what settings we need to have. Okay, we are knowledgeable of what model we need to have. Okay, and make sure you include this line here. Okay, that's it. So this is an end of part number 2 in the phase number 1 of React Django MySQL CRUD application. So in the next session, we'll deal with part number 2, which is rendering the data on the browser by using API. Okay, so we'll create a serializer, we'll create views, and we'll create URLs. So keep in touch with my channel. But if you find out the session is enjoyable to you, just click the like button, put a comment to express your thinking and your feelings, then don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscription button and turn all notification. Okay, after the previous part in phase number 1 of backend development, we covered the project setup. So this is part number 2A in phase 1 of backend development. So in your backend application, create a file named as Serializers, then open it. Okay, right now I'm using Sublime Text Editor, but you can also use Visual Studio Code, but I like to use Sublime Text Editor because it shows a good font size, which is good for you to look for what I'm typing, right? So here on the top of serializers.py, we need to import serializer. So from REST framework, from REST framework, import fields, comma, serializers. Okay, serializers. Then the next thing we need to do is to import our students model. So from backend dot models, import students. Okay, after importing serializers from REST framework, we have imported model. Okay, REST framework. As I told you that to make sure that you have this folder in your root project folder, and here you can see this is the serializers. So from REST API framework, import serializer. Okay, so that's it. The next thing, we are going to create a student serializer, which help us to take data from the backend database and render them in JSON format, which is supportive for React.js to take the data and display them to the user on the web browser. So the purpose of serializer is just it helps us to return the data from the database into JSON API format. So here, what I can do here is I'm going to create a class which is student serializer, students serializer, right? Then I put bracket serializers dot model serializer dot model serializer. Okay, that's it. The next thing is to define a class meta. So class meta, okay. Then define the model. The model is students, no brainer. Then fields, we need to specify which fields should be rendered into JSON format. So fields, I put bracket, then we need this column from model. So let me open up models. So we need this, okay. So I can copy them, okay. I can paste them inside, okay. So I need the cause. Let me do one hack here, okay. Let me do one hack here. Then let me do this. So here is students. Student, we need the student ID. Then the next column we need it to be rendered in API is first name, but we also need the last name. We also need the email, and we also need the cause, right? So here, let me do this, something like this. Then let me put a cause here, right? I also need the cause. So that's it. So the define the column of a table or the define the columns of a model will be rendered, right? So it should look like this. So Control S to save the changes. So we are done with creating the serializer, which will help us to render the information from model into JSON format. So the next thing, or the subpart number 2 in rendering data on the browser is creating the views, which will help us to render the information from model with the help of student serializer we have created here. So after dealing with a serializer, it's a time now to create a Django Python view for rendering the information on the API with the help of Serializer. So in your backend app, open up views.py, right? And make sure all these are imported, okay? Then let's create a Django function-based view, okay? So on the top of function, I'll use CSRF exempt, which help us to prevent against CSRF attacks. Then after here, I'm going to create my Django function-based view, which is student API. So student, I can say this is a student API. Student API, then a bracket inside the request, then comma pk is equal to 0, right? Then the next thing, I'm trying out to check if the request is get. So if request.method method is equal to get, means if someone is asking for information from the server, that's the meaning of get, then let's fetch information from model students. So what I can do here, I can say students is equal to students, which is the model.objects, okay, dot all. Select everything from model student. So if someone is asking for information about student, let's go to the model students and fetch all information. So students.object.all, this is a call set for selecting all information from model student. Then after students serializer, I can say students underscore serializer is equal to, I needed to pass this information into student serializer we have created. So I will say student serializer, then I put a bracket, then I pass in information which is to students, okay, then comma many true, okay. Then after the next thing, after passing data selected from the Django call set into serializer, what we need is to return the information to the browser, right? So let's return information to the browser. So what I can do here is I can say return JSON response, then a bracket students serializer.data safe is equal to false. So here what we have achieved the rendering of information to the browser using the Django REST API framework. So if the request is get, just pull out everything from model students, then take it. So the next condition to be checked is elif request dot method is equal to post. What should be done if the request is post? Okay, so this means someone is sending the information from the browser to the server, is not requesting information from the server. So what I can do here, this is probably someone is adding new student to the model student. So what I can do here is student data, I can say student data, student underscore data, right? Then equal sign JSON parser bracket dot path, okay, JSON parser dot path bracket, I put in request, right? So the JSON parser will pass the request. Then after student serializer is equal to student serializer of the student, then a bracket data is equal to students data. So data is equal to student data, right? So data is equal to student data. Then after, if student serializer, let's put a condition here. if students serializer dot is valid, to check if the information is valid. Okay, to check if submitted information are valid, do the following. Okay, so if students serializer is valid, so we need it just to save the information to the model student. So student serializer dot save. This is almost a Django method for saving information to the model. So students serializer dot save. Then you return the response to the user that data saved is successful. So we'll use JSON response, then a bracket, then we path in the string we want to return to the user after a successful submission of data. So here I can say data added successful, data added successful. Not data, I can say student added successful. That makes sense. So what if I'll say the student is not added successful to the model? So the next thing is to return. We just return the JSON response telling the user that the request was failed. Okay, so bracket, then we pass the message to the user, request failed, or I can say failed to add student, right? Safe is equal to false, and here safe is equal to false. So we are done if the request is post, but if request dot method is delete. So if the request dot method is equal to delete, so let me do this. If the request is delete, what should be done? So if the request is equal to delete, do the following, right? So student is equal model students dot objects. So here is objects dot get bracket student ID as we present in model student is equal to pk. Okay, we take the primary key of a student we need to delete. So the next thing is to delete student. So student dot delete, right? I put bracket. So here we have deleted a student with a specific primary key. That's it. So after successful deletion of a student, it's a time to return the response to the user. So return JSON response, I put bracket, then a double quote, student was deleted successful. Student was deleted successful. That's it. Then self is equal to false. Okay, so that's it. So as I told you that in CRUD application we are going to implement three functionality: read, which stands for get method; create, which stands for post method; delete, which stands for delete method. So after creating our Django function based view for rendering information in our API, let's add this function in urls.py. So let me open up urls.py. Then here I'm going to add the two lines here. So let me paste this. So here what I can say is student, something like this. Then student, let me check out the name of our function we have created. So it is student API, right? So here is student API, okay? Something like this. Not something like this, exactly like this. So here I can say student int pk pass the primal key. So it should be something like this. Let me Ctrl S to save the changes. Then let me check if the server is still running correctly. You can see here class student serializer, serializers dot model serializer has no attribute model serializer. So let's check out this error and see how we can fix this error. So let me open up the serializer file which contain error. So here it is capital M and not small m. So let me Ctrl S to save the changes and see if the error is still persisting. Okay, now you can see the server is running properly. So let me go on the browser and try out this path. Let me try to put a student here. Wow, this is awesome. Now you can see information are rendered from MySQL database on the browser by using the Django REST API framework. And as I told you that we needed to install Postman, and the Postman is actually the same. It is used for testing the API. So let me type here Postman. Okay. So this is Postman. But here on the browser, if I type, okay, let me come here. So this is the Django, React Django model. Let me go to the admin. Okay. Admin, so there is a student with primary key 2, 3, and 4. So let me try out to put ID 2, which is primary key. Oops. What is happening? Okay. Don't worry. Let me check in my URLs. So a student int should be exactly like this. So let me refresh. Okay, let me use the Postman. You can see. So here you can see the request is get. We specified in our views. Here it will fetch all the information of students. So let me hit send. You can see these are the information of students. Okay, so you can choose different you can choose delete, but you should specify the ID. So let me say I want to delete this too. You can see student was deleted successfully. So actually Postman is one of application which is used to test the API, right? So that's it. In short, I can say this is end of phase number 1 of our Django React.js and MySQL tutorial. We have covered how to create serializer, views, and URLs, plus using Postman to test the created API. So in the next phase, we are going to deal with React.js front end. We'll create component home, we'll create component list student, we'll create component add student and delete. So those are the 4 things which will be covered in the phase number 2 of this tutorial. Just do not forget to grab up the cup of coffee just to fuel your brain and fuel your mind for the masterpiece project. So after completing with the back-end development, we are going to start the front-end development, which is React.js. Actually, as I told you that in the phase number 2, which is front-end development, we'll have 4 subsection, which is creating the home page, displaying the the students from the database, adding new student and deleting a student. This is still React Django CRUD application plus MySQL and the Django REST API framework. So that's it. But remember that you should have everything installed in your computer. Make sure you have installed the Node.js. Okay, so you have installed the Node.js, and the next thing you should do is you need to create an app, which is React app called the front end by this command npx create -react -app front end. Okay, but also make sure that you have installed the React.js in your computer by using npm install react. So npm is a tool for installing different packages. Okay, so you will need to install Bootstrap, you'll need to install React DOM and so on. Note, if you use install -g, the package are installed globally, but if you use npm install package, the packages are installed in the local project, right? So after creating an app, React app, make sure you use npm install Bootstrap, npm install React DOM, npm install React Redux. Okay, so let me show you the React app before we start creating the home page, which is home component. So here, this is my root project folder. Here, as you can see, this is backend, which is the Django web framework and the Django REST API framework, but the front end is React app. As you can see, this is React, and these are Node modules. These are the modules installed, right? So let me show you something here. Let me come here and click no, okay, let me show you some packages you should have installed in your computer. So as you can see here, these are the packages you need to install. There is Bootstrap, there is React Bootstrap, React DOM, React Redux, React Router, React Router DOM, React Script, and the Web Vitals. Okay, as I told you that the command is npm install Bootstrap, npm install React, npm install React Bootstrap. So that's it. Make sure these packages are as you can see them in my computer, right? So that's it. So this is just an introduction of phase number 2, which is front-end development, and we are going straight forward to start creating not creating but running the React server and creating the home page, right? Okay guys, we start with creating of home page, which is mainly React.js page, right? But as I told you in the requirement earlier in this tutorial, I told you one of the favorite coding editor is Visual Studio Code, right? And one of which I like is the ability to split the terminal. As here you can see, you can click here to split the terminal, and here in the terminal one here I'm running Django, okay, and in the second terminal I'm running React app. So you can run 2 applications now on the same terminal by using the split feature, okay. And here as you can see, if you run the command npm start, this is command for starting React.js application, npm start. Very simple and short and clear, a masterpiece command. So it is npm then start. So you start the React.js server, and it is running on the port 3000, while Django is running. This is actually the Django REST API framework is running on this port, okay, port 80,000, and you can see these are the data returned in JSON format. You can see how awesome is our project. This is from the Django web framework, the Django REST API framework, and MySQL. This is React.js, one of the popular, handful, attractive, and masterpiece front-end web framework. And this is the Django admin page where we can still add in some students. Here I can say the student is someone, let me say Noel, and the second name Noel. Email is motech@gmail.com. The course is CIS. So I can click here. You can see I'm still adding the user in the backend database. So let me show you the structure of React app, okay. As I've told you, if in short, this is front end, okay. This is the front end, which is our React app. Once I click here, you can go to the source, and here there is app.js, okay. Here there is components, but I don't use components. I'm going to show you the app.js, okay, because this is the page it is rendered by React. In short, React is a single web application, so every component are rendered in app.js. So let me click this, okay. Here I can minimize the terminal, or I can totally make it disappear, right? So this is our our app.js, you can see here, import React from React, import app.css, and import Bootstrap. This is not React Bootstrap, this is just a normal Bootstrap, okay? And here you can see this is class name container, and here you can see these are the just heading. This is class name Motec. So you can see this is how you can define class in the Django. So it is class name, but in normal HTML we define like this, just class, then you put the name. But in React.js things are different. So this is our app.js, which is rendered, okay? And here I can do some changes, smaller changes. As I told you that app.css, it is for styling different pages of React.js, right? But let me show you something. Here I can say this is CRUD, this is class CRUD. Okay, I can Control S to save the changes. Okay, you can see now it is CRUD. Okay, this is CRUD. I can do one more trick, like let me do one hack here. I can say div class name. Okay, class name. I can put something like this. Okay, div class name, and here I can say call sm2, right? So here let me put something like this. I can do something like this. Let me do 3. Okay, so next let me copy this and paste it here. I just want to show you that React.js is very simple, as you can't believe. Okay, so let me do something here. Let me define, let me say this is div, right? And here let me say class name. The class name is CRUD. Okay, then I can copy everything from here, right? I can copy everything about Motec, then I can paste in. Okay, so the next here I can say this is class Motec and not CRUD. This is class Motec, whatever. Okay, so this is called SM3, this is called SM6. I just want to show you how simple is React.js. Okay, so let me Control S to save the changes and get it back on the browser. You can see how it is looking like. Okay, so here I can do some styles. Here I can say this is I can say this is 4. Okay, this goes with this and this. Okay, you can see, so this is the Django. Okay, this is how our React is looking like. But let me show you the app.css. So let me take this class CRUD and put the color behind. So here I can do something like this, CRUD. Okay, here I can say background color, let me say aquamarine. I think this is aqua. Let me Control S to save the changes. Okay, So let me do something here. Let me say more tech. Then Control S to save the changes. Let me see what is happening. Oh, this is Dev Motec. But this is all on how you can style. You can use app.js and app.css, right? So that's it. Okay, so let me delete everything here inside. Let me delete everything inside. Okay, let me delete everything and remain only with container. Once I Control S to save the changes, you can see our React page is empty. Okay, that's it. So what I can do here, I'm going to create home page. So I'm going to create a component. In React JS, everything is all about components which are collected in app.js. So I'm going to create component home, then I'm going to create a component navigation. Okay, so here you can see there is a subfolder called the components. Make sure you create the folder with the same name, components, then create a file named navigation.js. So this contain our navigation. You can see here list student, home, manage student. So inside of this folder, create another file and name it as home.js. Okay, so here inside home.js, we'll import something like almost we'll need to import this. Okay, let me import this. Okay, the next thing is let me do something. It is okay. Let me create something here. So let me say it is, first of all, let me save this. Okay, so in home, this will be our main component to be rendered. Okay, so this will be our main component to be rendered. So in home, what I'm going to create is class home, export class home, extend components. So here it's export class. There is some shortcut, is something like this. I hope something like this. No, please. So it is export class extend components. So export class home extends components. Hope something like that. It should be something like that. Then inside render, then inside the return. Okay, inside the return. So in return here, I can put div. Okay, and here I can specify the class name I can say container. So let me save the changes, and here I can say hi Motec. Hi Motec. Okay, so it is export class home extends component, and at the end we okay, it's okay. So this is our home, and I want this page to be displayed as the main page. So here, what I can do here in React.js, I can say I need to import the component home I have created. Okay. So what I can do here, I can say import home from import home from something like this dot components slash home. So import home, okay, import home, import home from components, it is components, something like this, import home. Okay, so we have imported home. Also we needed to import navigation, so import navigation from components navigation. So we have imported navigation component and home component. So we needed to import something which is very important. We needed to import browser router, route and switch from React Router DOM. So here I can say import browser router, okay, route and a switch from React DOM. Okay, so we needed to import browser router, route and switch from React Router DOM. From React Router DOM. Okay, so these are very essential for our nav bar. Okay, so that's it. After importing browser router, route and switch, let me get inside of this function and I do one hack here. So this is class name container. So what I can do here, let me use the browser router. Okay, so here let me say this is browser router. Okay, and let me cut this div and paste it inside the browse router. Okay, I hope we are okay and no one is lagging behind. So after pressing container inside of browse router, so here I can put in navigation. I can call the component navigation. Okay, navigation So this is component navigation we need. So here I can do something like this. Then I can take this, can remove this. Okay, so this is navigation. Let me Ctrl S to save the changes and go to the browser, see what's happening. Wow, this is awesome. You can see this is our navigation from the component navigation. I already created the navigation. Okay, so in components, this is navigation. It is actually similar with normal Bootstrap navigation. You can see here nav crash, link, and so on. So we have already loaded this component in our app.js. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to specify the route path. Okay, and with the help of switch, so switch will be helping us to switch over this. So it is switch. Okay, switch. Then inside of switch, I'm going to put the path of this component. Okay, so route inside I specify the path and the component. So the path is, so this should be on the main home page. Then the component name is home, so component is equal to home. Okay, so this should be on the main web page of our React app.js. So let me Ctrl S to save the changes. Then when I get back on the browser, you can see hi Motec. Okay, you can see hi Motec, but this should be below. So let me open up home.js. Okay, you can see no worry, we'll make some changes of our home.js. So never mind. So let me put here container fluid, then div class name row. Okay, then let me cut this and paste it here. Ctrl S to save the changes. Then it's still looking the same. No worry. Okay, so the next thing I can do here, okay, the next thing I can do is, let me create the list. Okay, so let me remove this and I can say, let me put heading 1. I can say the Django React CRUD application, CRUD app. Okay, the class name I can say heading, and here, no, let me say text primal, Control S to save the changes. Okay, it's Django CRUD app. Okay, so let me cross this. So here I think there is something is missing in app.js. Okay, let me check it out if it's okay. So the div class name is container nav switch. Okay, after switch so the navigation should be after the class name container. Okay, so let me cut this and I put it here. Control S to save the changes. Then let me get back on the browser. Wow, it's looking awesome. So the Django React CRUD app, and below here I can write some few description. What I can say, let me say let me use the paragraph. Okay, class name text primal and here let me say this is masterpiece tutorial. This is a masterpiece tutorial of the Django web framework, the Django REST API framework, the Django REST API framework, React.js, and MySQL. Okay, so here I can put something like this. Then inside I can do something like this, like the Django web framework, the Django web framework, the Django REST API, the Django REST API framework, React.js, and MySQL as the backend database, and MySQL as the backend database. So here I can put the class name. I can say text info. Then Control S to save the changes, and you can see let me say the secondal. Control S to save the changes. Okay, so this is masterpiece tutorial of the Django REST API framework, React.js, and MySQL. These are the technologies used. So can still do something here. I can say technology use the. Okay, technologies use the. Okay, so that's it. So we are done with our page, which is home page and navigation. Okay, technologies used. So in the next session we are going to cover with student and manage. Okay, so that's it. So just grab another cup of coffee to fuel up your body and your mind, and get it prepared on how we can use React.js to fetch the information rendered by the Django REST API from MySQL backend database. So after creating the homepage is party, it's a time now to read the information from the Django REST API and display them on the web page, right? So let's go on and let's create another component named student. So I'm going to create a new file and I name it student.js. Okay, then after, in student.js, I'll copy this as usual. I'll copy this, I'll paste it here. Then I needed to import a table because the names or the information of students will be displayed on the table. So import a table, okay, import table from React Bootstrap. That's okay. Then after, export class, student extends component. Okay, then do something like that. That's brilliant. Then here we need to render. Okay, so we need to render. So what I can do here is I can render. Okay, so here I can say render, something like that. Okay, then return should be something like this. I hope return should be render returning. Okay, so it should be something like this. Then inside here, let me try out. Okay, so inside I'm going to put something. Okay, so inside I don't want this div. Okay, so let me paste something here. Where is it? Okay, let me take something here in student. I would like it to copy this. Okay, let me copy this div. and I paste it here. Okay, so let me remove these rows. Let me Control S to save the changes. If I come here, oops, nothing to show. Exactly. Let me do one hack here. So what I can do here, I can just copy this, okay, then paste it in the next line. Okay, paste it in the next line. Then here I can say this is a student. Okay, here I can say this is a student. Then I need to import the component student. Okay, so import student from, import student from components students. Control S to save the changes, then include it here. Okay, so let me refresh. Let me Control S to save the changes. Then what's happened if I click here? You can see ID, first name, last name, email, and the course. So information of students will be displayed inside of this table. So let me do some magic here. This is student.js. Let me do something here. Let me create a constructor. Okay, let me create a constructor here. So constructor, something like that. Okay, then is super bracket, something like this. Then this dot state, this dot state. Okay, this dot state, this dot state, this dot state equal sign. I hope this is something like this, equal sign, then curly bracket depth, then square bracket. Okay, then a square bracket, after that let me create another function for refreshing. Okay, let me create another function, actually not for refreshing, for fetching information from API. So I'll call it refresh list. Okay, something like that. Yes, then fetch. Okay, fetch. Where does it fetch information? It fetch information from student here, this path. Let me copy it and I paste it inside. Okay, then dot, then bracket response. Okay, response. Okay, response. Response.json. 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 Then after dot then depths, something like that. Then inside the depth, it is this dot set state bracket, then depths. Okay, after that I put here something like this, then console.log. So this is how you can fetch information from your API. Console.log. Okay, so that is for fetching information and passing it to the constructor. Okay, so the next function to create is did mount and did refresh. Okay, so these functions will be used when an action is performed, new action is performed. So here, let me do something. Okay. So let me do something here. So component is component did mount bracket then this dot refresh list. So let me copy this and paste it here. Here is not did mount but did update. Okay, so that's it. After that, after creating refresh list, constructor did mount did refresh. Inside the render, let's do something here. Inside the render, let me do something. Okay, inside the render, let me do something. Okay, so const student data is equal to this dot state dot this dot state dot depths. Okay, then const rows is equal to student data dot map okay. So here let me create a table row. Okay, here I can say key is equal to stu.id. Then let me create some column here. Okay, so these are some column student id, student id. Okay, so here is first name, last name, email, and the cause. I can say email, and the cause. So stu.cause. So that's it. Okay, so here inside the body I can put rows. Then let me Control S to save the changes. What error? Okay, so component did mount refresh.list, component did update. I think they okay. What's wrong? Is did mount and did update. Did mount, did update. Yes, they okay. So what is error? What is the cause of an error? Okay, so let me check clear. What is causing an error? Okay, I hope this is okay. That's okay. Control S. Oh, what is this? So let me remove this. Still okay. Let me see. Unhandled rejection type failed to fetch. Why can't it fetch? Okay, so here refresh list, fetch here from student. Then response.json depth this dot set state, then console.log. Okay, constructor is, yeah, let me Control S to save. Okay, still there is an error. Okay, so let me put this as capital. Control S to save the changes. Still there is an error. In super, if I put this, I still face some error. Okay, so as we can see here, there is an error. Okay, unhandled rejection failed to fetch. So what we need to do, let us open the settings.py. I hope we forgot to do something here, so let me open it up. Okay, then here you can see we installed the cosh header. Okay, so what we need to do here is to include it here in middleware. So let me paste this line, then Control S to save the changes. Then let me get back on the browser to refresh. So if I refresh here, you can see student information are now rendered on the browser. So now we got two pages working. There is home page, but there is also list student page. Okay, so that's it, and that is an end of how we can read the information from backend by using the Django REST API and a React.js framework. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to implement manage page. Okay, we are going to implement the manage page, which will include the adding of new student and the deleting of new student. So the first functionality to be implemented here will be the registering of a new student by using Bootstrap pop-up model. Okay, after finishing to read the information from the MySQL backend database, let's create the pop-up model for adding user or student information, right? So here on the component, I'm going to create another file with the name of addStudentModel.js. Okay, so after that I paste this. So after that I paste the following. Let me paste the following dependents. So after that I paste the following. Okay, so there is a model, which is pop-up model. There is a form control and the labels for form. Okay, so after that let me do something here. It is export class add student model extends component. Okay, then something like that, right? So after that, can I create here constructor? Okay, here can I create a constructor, then inside the props. Okay, then inside the constructor I would like to type super, then a bracket props. Okay, something like that. Then this dot handle submit, this dot handle submit. The handle submit will be the function for submitting the data to the backend. So this dot handle submit is equal to this dot handle submit dot bind dot this dot bind bracket this. Okay, so this dot handle submit is equal to this dot handle submit dot bind this. So after that, let's create the handle submit function, which is special for handling data to be submitted in the MySQL backend database. So here I would like to say this is handle submit, then bracket event. Okay, event. So event dot prevent event prevent dot prevent default. I think you know why do we use event dot prevent default. Okay, so if you are familiar with Ajax, JQuery, and some basic concept in JavaScript, you might know that the prevent default is used to prevent the it help to prevent the form to refresh, okay, or to prevent the form to send some data before a certain action to be completed. So event.prevent default, then fetch, okay, bracket here, then single quote, let me copy this and paste it here. So fetch student, fetch student, then let me put it here, comma, okay. Then inside, let me define the method to be used. So the method is post, okay, as long as we are sending the request to the server. So the method is request, and the headers, so headers, let me define headers inside this. So here there is accept, okay, there is accept application slash JSON. So application slash JSON, okay. Then the content type is also application slash JSON. So content type content type is also application JSON. Application slash JSON. Okay. Then the next thing we need to do here is the body. So JSON dot string file. Then I put a bracket. Okay. So after bracket, inside here, I want to define the data to be sent. So here I can say student ID equals null. Okay. Then first name event dot target dot first name dot value. Okay, so I would like to copy this, paste it here. So we need this to first name, last name, email, and a cause. So first name, last name, email, and a cause. So here what I can say is, here is not the first name. Okay, it is last name. So let me say this is last name. So this is email. Okay. And this is cause, student cause. Okay. So this is cause. Right. So it should be something like that. Then here I can say dot then bracket response something like this, response JSON, response.json, then a bracket. Okay, then dot then result can do something like this. Result, I can say alert result. So this is to inform user that new student is added successful. Okay, so that's alert result. But for the case of failure, okay, so here I would say error. If there is an error, alert bracket failed. Okay, alert failed. Okay. So after that, after that, what I need to do here, let me go down. After creating the function to handle the data submission, let me define the render. So here, render, let me write here, render, render, for rendering the table. So here render, then return something like this. Then inside of return here, okay, I would like it to let me copy this. Okay, copy this, then you paste it inside here. So the form input must have control ID. Okay, so the React will collect information from form by using ID. As here you can see, control ID is email. Okay, and the name is email, control ID is cause. Okay, so it should looks like this, and on the form, this dot handle submit. So this is a function for handling the submission of information inside a form. So this is all about the add student model. So let's create manage.js. In component manage.js will what we'll do is calling this component add student model, allowing user to add student and delete student. So here, this is all about the add student model and how it can be the submission of form can be handled. So in manage.js, we'll load the add student model and implementing the deleting of student. So let's wind up with manage, okay, .js, but in student, here you should add another bracket. So let me show you. So this is handle submit, bracket event, then carry bracket. Here there is event dot prevent default. Here is a fetch. You can see comma, curly bracket, method. Here it is not headers. Actually I think it is header. Okay, so header, then accept application slash / JSON content type blah blah, then you model JSON.string file. So here curly bracket curly bracket. Let's make sure your bracket are as mine. Okay, you can see here, this is bracket, curly bracket, comma, error, curly bracket, curly bracket. But make sure the brackets are as my brackets, because when you mess up with just one bracket, you will only find out your component is not functioning well. Okay, so just compare your brackets and my brackets. Okay, I can open it up on Sublime editor so as you can be able to see it well. Okay, so it is add student model. Okay, so it should look like this. So the handle submit ends here, as you can see. Okay, then this is render. So that's it. Let's go to the manage.js. So here it is export class manage extend components. Inside the return, I would like it to paste the following. Okay, so that's it. The next thing I can do here, okay, the next thing I can do here, let me create a constructor. Okay, let me create a constructor. So constructor bracket, then curly bracket. As I told you, make sure you be sure of the brackets you are using in React.js. So here I can say super. Okay, bracket, then semicolon, this dot state is equal to curly bracket student square bracket comma add model show false, edit model show okay, that's it. After that, here let me write the fetch data. So after constructor, let me write the fetch data. This will help us to fetch information of user to be deleted. So we are using fetch bracket. Let me copy this and paste it here. Dot then response okay, response response okay is response so response dot json bracket then bracket data. So this dot set state bracket curly bracket, then student is data. Okay, here there's something like that. Then console dot log bracket data. Yes. Okay. So that's it. That will help us to fetch the information from our backend MySQL database. Okay, as data returned by the Django REST API. So component did mount this dot fetch data bracket, then a component did update bracket this dot fetch data bracket. Yes. So after that, the next thing to do here is to implement deleting of student in the database. Okay, so I'm going to create one more function called delete dep. So delete dep bracket, it will path the student ID. So stu ID, so it will take student ID, then it will do the following. Okay, so inside here I'll say if window dot confirm, if window dot confirm, okay, bracket, are you sure, are you sure, are you sure, let's say, are you sure you want to delete? Okay, so if user is sure, so we need to retrieve a specific student to be deleted and send the request to the backend. Okay, so here I can fetch a specific student to be deleted. Okay, then take the student ID. Okay, after taking the student ID, what I need to do here is to delete a user. So method is, the method is delete. Okay, then header, is it headers or header? So something like this. Here there is a safety, application JSON /JSON, then content type application /JSON. Should be something like this. Then after, what's next to be done here? So the next here, I think in render, inside the render, let me put a const. Let me do student id fname lname cause, I think, and email. Is equal to this dot state. Okay. Then let add model cross is equal to curly bracket this dot set state. Bracket, curly bracket. Add model show. Add model show. Should be something like this. So let add model cross. Okay. Let add model cross, then something like this. I think it should be like this. So anything wrong? So let me get back on my browser. So this is manage student. I can't see anything. So let me check out what is let me check out what is wrong. So let me check out what is wrong. So here, data, student data. So let me Control S to save the changes. Then let me try to refresh. I can't see anything. Let me inspect console. Waiting for update signal from WDS. Still waiting. Okay, let me cross this and start to debug. So I think, as you can see, nothing happened here. What we can do here, we had forgotten to add the path here. So let me copy this. Okay, let me copy this, paste it here, and here let me say this is manage, and the component is manage. Forget to load the component. Jesus Christ. So here let me also copy this. Let me say import import manage from components / manage. Let me Control S to save the changes. Let me refresh once again. Add the student model. Modules not found. Thank you. So here component so it is components Control S to save the changes. Add the student model. Let me refresh. Components. So here it is add the student model. So let me copy the name of my component. And paste it here. Okay. So let me refresh. Component failed to compile. Let me inspect. This student. What is happening? Let me copy this and then manage. Let me do one hack. Let me Control S and see if the error persists. We can restart our server. Okay. So let me restart our server. Okay. npm start. This student model. The student model. Okay, still cannot resolve components. Okay, so let me open up this. Let me copy. So this is the student. Okay. So let's scale on with debugging our application. Okay. So the first thing, open up the student model.js. Here, let's put email, capital E, Control S to save the changes. Then in manage.js, okay, here it should be stu ID, okay, and also here it should be stu ID, student ID. Then the next thing is here it should be student, as you can see, but here it should be student. Okay, here it is not state. Let's put state, then Control S to save the changes. Let's go back on the browser. Oh, this is awesome. We can see it is looking nice. Okay, so I can move here in list student. I can go to the home. Okay, so let's try out to add a new student. So add a student. Let me just say the Moses Motec courses CIS. Let me click submit. Oh, failed to add a student. Okay, let's debug to see what is an error. Okay, let's make the following changes. Open the views.py. Okay, then add this line from here up to here. Okay, so let's add the put method for update, even though we are not about to handle the update, but just add this line in our function student API. Okay, so this is something should be added. Just add it. Okay, let me close this file. Then the next thing is in a backend, in URLs, make sure you are student /int. Remove this we had this. So just remove it, Control S to save the changes. Then the next thing to do here is in manage.js, here it was capital D, so put a small d, okay? Then after, go to your web page. Once you click on manage, if you click delete, are you sure? Yes, you can see we are able to delete, but if I want to add a new student, I can just add here, okay? Added successful, and you can see the new student is added. If I want to delete this user, I can just click here, delete. So this is actually the end of our Django React app CRUD application tutorial. Possible the session was somehow difficult due to the new knowledge. You know, I have never taught about React, but I promise you, as long as I'll be giving more lectures on Django and React, some improvement in teaching will be modified, as I'll be inventing some new methodology for simple learning or for simple teaching. But actually this is an end of our CRUD application. So call to action: if you have already learned how to create a CRUD application in the Django web framework, Django REST API framework, and the React.js plus the backend MySQL database, you can create your own CRUD application, okay? Or you can try to create a blog by using Django, React.js, and the Django REST API. So try, okay? Try that. If you find this tutorial enjoyable, please thumb up to appreciate what I give to the world. Comment, just express your mind, speak your mind by putting the comment below. Subscribe for the next video update, because here we are just starting with React.js, but there will be some masterpiece tutorial in the near future, okay? But not forget to download the source code by visiting the link below the video description. Click it, then follow the GitHub link to download the source code. I think that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial.
Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notification.